This will be an initial overview of the Franchi Affinity 3 shotgun. This will be Jesse's gun, the one that he has been using. A couple of the features that we'll go over here. This is a 3-inch chambered gun, so no 3.5s, which is fine. Honestly, you don't really need a 3.5-inch chamber. But here we've got a Benelli type inertia system. Again, this one is actually made by Benelli. The bolt is chrome lined, which is pretty sweet. We've got an oversized bolt release handle and an oversized charging handle. This one has the spring inside underneath the forearm, so it's not like a lot of the other Benelli guns. This is more of a refined Stoeger gun. We've got a small front bead, vent rib all the way down. We've got a standard size safety. I wouldn't call this a enlarged safety by any means. I would call that a standard size. It's got a sling swivel molded into the buttstock. And the teardown on this gun is going to happen next. It's a lot of the same, just like the Girsan MC312 that I just did. So it's very similar, and we're going to do that next after we do some shooting with this. But it's got a different type of recoil pad. You notice the stock isn't straight. It's actually inset just a little bit, inletted there. It also comes with some shims to adjust for the way the gun wants to shoot. It also comes with a set of, I think he said 4 chokes. And he also put a Carlson's mid-range cremator on the front of this one. Pretty much all of us love to shoot Carlsons. We absolutely love to shoot Carlsons. We think that for the money, they are some of the best chokes out there. I think they do about the same thing as chokes that are priced twice as much. So we're going to shoot this thing real quick, and then we're going to get it home. We're going to break it down and show you how that happens, and then we'll put her all back together, just like we did with the Girsan MC312. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right, so we're going to start with the Franchi Affinity 3. Let's start with some duck loads. We're going to go with some number 2 speed shocks, 3-inch. Cycled, it's all easy. All right, let's go with a Federal number 8, a Winchester 7.5. These shells are pretty gross, and a Remington 7.5. All 3 different brands, different shells. Look at that. All 3 trap loads, they fired. Let's go with an Expert. Let's go with a trap load from Winchester, and then let's go with a Federal speed shock as our second one. So we've got Winchester Expert, we've got Federal speed shock, and then trap load. All shot perfect. Franchi Affinity 3. There you go. So here is a breakdown of the Franchi Affinity 3. Going from back to front, what we notice is right here we've got a nice cushy buttstock, butt plate I should say, or recoil pad as people want to call it. There is kind of a scallop here that comes around. It's not perfectly flat, so if you ever wanted to fit an actual different recoil pad or something on there, you'd have to get a slip-on that goes over the original, thus making your length of pull just a little longer. But I think they did that a lot for style. It also, right here is where most of the force is coming from, from the recoil, as it's a little bit more in line with the barrel. So they wanted to make that part thicker. Something that I kind of like in a lot of guns is they put a swivel attachment right there, or a sling swivel attachment right there to accommodate using a sling. We all like to use a sling a lot of the times. when we're waterfowl hunting. Upland bird hunting, it's not that much big of a deal. I take my sling off when I'm in a ground blind, as far as like a layout blind or something like that, because it gets caught on stuff. But in the duck boat, out of the duck boat, especially out in the decoys when you're, messing with stuff, I like to have my gun on me, so I throw my sling on. I have a sling on my waterfowl gun. So it's got a really nice Max 5 camo finish on it from Realtree. I think they did an excellent job as far as the dip. So yeah, there's where the line is on the dip. So it looks like they dipped it from the top down, which is pretty standard. It's pretty standard of all dip jobs. They like to, when they put it in the dip bath, they dip it from the top down. So going up, one of the things I noticed about this gun, the wrist on the buttstock, is very, very nice. I really like how thin and slim the wrist is. I'm kind of a guy that doesn't have very big, I kind of have little raccoon paws as far as hands. So I definitely like how slim the grip is here. And they did something a little bit different. If you notice, they kind of rounded it off at the top and then squared it off at the bottom, which I thought was pretty stylish. I thought that was kind of cool. Going up the receiver, one of the things you'll notice is the oversized bolt release. That's actually pretty handy. I like that. The only thing I didn't like about it, they left it parkerized, and it tends to get a little bit rusty. So you got to keep that oiled a little bit, because the oil from your fingers and stuff like that, that'll actually allow it to rust a little bit faster. So keep that in mind. But I do like the position of it, and I do like the size of it for sure. One of the things that you'll notice is there's not bare aluminum in there. They obviously anodized it somewhat. This is an aluminum receiver as well, so to keep everything lightweight. And something you'll notice way down in there, they've got plugs in it. They've got plugs in it for the ability to put a rail on the top and mount a scope or any kind of sight. So if you want to take this turkey hunting or anything cool like that, you can do that and put a red dot or a scope on it. They use an anodized aluminum follower in the mag tube, which I think is pretty neat as well. That doesn't come on a lot of different guns. Going down to the magazine tube, you'll notice that it is like a really slick silicone-lined aluminum mag tube. It's very, very, very slick. One of the reasons for that is the bolt operates via a spring that rides on top of this mag tube. If you guys harken back to the MC312 video, you notice that it's more Benelli-esque as far as that's concerned, as far as the operating system, where the operating system, the operating spring is actually in the buttstock. With this one, it's a lot more like a Stoger, where your spring is riding right here on the mag tube. So let's go down to the trigger group real quick and talk about that. Again, very Benelli-esque as far as the trigger group is concerned. Everything that you see on a Benelli or even a Stoger, for that matter, you'll see in this trigger group. The safety, as I said in the overview, is not oversized by any means, which is okay. I think it's a little easier to operate an oversized safety with gloves on and things like that. So I think one of my critiques of this, that could be improved. They could put a little bit bigger of a safety on it, I think, at least on this side where you go to flip it off. You've got your standard shell release right here. You've got a polished hammer. You've also got I think, yeah, this is still steel. The lifter is still steel, but it's like a stainless to keep it from rusting. So that'll be a lot more helpful. Also, the trigger on these guns are a steel as well. Oversized charging handle, which is pretty neat. You can actually get other aftermarket charging handles for this. There's a variety of ones that actually fit this gun. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head, but the last time I went shopping for one, it was like the Affinity, the Stoeger 3500, the Remington Versamax, like a bunch of them share the same type of charging handle. Single pin as far as holding the trigger group in, which is kind of nice. So, real quick before we get to the bolt, here's the operating spring right here that you put behind your action bars right there, and your bolt just sits inside of that and operates the action just like that. So again, we've got our operating rod. It is coated with a rust preventative coating. I can definitely tell just by touching it. Very well machined. Not a whole lot of machine marks left in it. They refined this really well when they produced it. The welds up here are very good welds. They do the job, that's for sure. Now, going down to the bolt, I could actually break this bolt down even farther because of the fact that they used a pin right here. If I pull this pin out, what's going to happen is my firing pin is going to go shooting out the back, and my firing pin return spring is going to be in there. Then I can actually take this cam pin, pull it out, and then slide the bolt face out, and then the inertia spring, which is the heart of this whole gun, what makes this gun work, is inside of here. What happens is when the shell goes off, it pushes on that inertia spring, and once that inertia spring in there is tight, it will, push the bolt to the rear, which is a really neat design, the way it operates. Also, one of the things I wanted to tell you guys is I just got done back from filming the shooting of this thing, and all I had to do was wipe down the bolt face just a little bit and then run a bore snake down it. Everything else stayed perfectly clean. So after those, I think it was 9 rounds I shot, it was exceptionally clean still because of that inertia system. There's no gas involved. All the gas, everything that would foul up a gun goes right down the barrel. So you don't have to really worry about it. So that's your bolt, your standard bolt. It's very, very Stoeger-esque. One of the things that people tend to say about these guns is they are basically a refined Stoeger. Everything that Stoeger should have done with their guns, they did with the Franchi Affinity, and they got it right. And I tend to agree. The only downside to that is it's going to be a little bit more expensive as far as price is concerned. They are going to be in the ballpark of that $800 price range, where your Stoegers are going to be $100 to $200 less than that. So moving down to the barrel, we see still a really good Max 5 camo job on this barrel. We've got your sprung ejector on inside of your barrel extension right there. Again, we have a long barrel extension. It's actually cut out for the ejection port right here as well. So you've got an ejection port cut out there. But again, you've got your spring ejector, and it's actually pinned in. So you don't have to worry about screws backing out or anything crazy like that. Like on some other Benellis, or not Benellis, but Stoegers, they had them screwed in. We've got a chrome-lined chamber and a chrome-lined bore. Pretty standard on just about every shotgun these days. Got a nice high vent rib. And then you've got a somewhat diminutive bead on the front. Me, personally, I like a little bit bigger of a bead than that, but it does serve its purpose. It's choked for a Benelli thread, a Benelli mobile thread. That's pretty much standard. So you're gonna... This thing actually comes out really smooth. We've got the Carlson's cremator choking this thing. If I had 2 hands and I wasn't holding the phone, you'd be able to... Oh, there we go. See that? Boom. It's in. So we've got a smaller forend, a lot slimmer of a forend to accommodate the fact that it's not a gas gun. Bigger gas guns tend to have a little bit beefier of a fore-end because they have to. Honestly, this one isn't as slim as my Gerson, but it is really slim comparatively to a lot of other shotguns out there on the market. So that's one of the things I like as well. Also, they did a really good job, again, of doing the dip on this particular shotgun that we have here. So we're going to slap this thing back together, and I'll kind of show you step by step how that works, and then we will pretty much be done. So let's get to doing that. All right, now we are going to start to put this thing together. First thing we want to do is we want to assemble our spring. So spring first. We are going to put our spring onto our mag tube. Then we are going to take our bolt and our action bar, and we're going to put our bolt on top of our action bars, just like that. All right. Then we are going to take our bolt and our action bars and put them into the receiver, just like this. Sometimes it takes a little bit of wiggling. Oh, see? It fell right off. There we go. See, one of the things you got to remember is these action bars go into these little tracks right here. So we're going to put those in the tracks. We're going to put our bolt inside and run it down. See that? That's easy. Now we're going to capture our bolt with our charging handle. Boom. Charging handle's in. Alright, one of the things that people make a big mistake of is they will take this, they'll push it back until it locks with the trigger mechanism in it, then they'll hit the charging handle, or they'll hit the bolt release, and they'll send the bolt home, and they'll smack the bolt up against the this receiver. That's a big no-no. You do not want to do that. All right. So next, we're going to put our trigger group in. Now, the trigger group is a little fussy. You got to finagle it just a little bit. So you got to take it. You got to push it all the way to the back as far as you possibly can. Push in your bolt release until your holes line up inside of the trigger group and inside of the receiver. Take your pin, push it in, and she's all the way in. Alright, now, alright, we are going to lay this down for a second. We're going to assemble our barrel and our fore end. Put the fore end on the barrel until it just snaps in, just like that. Real easy. It all lines up perfect. Then we take our receiver and our extension, we put it all together, and just like the MC312, we slam her all together. And she's almost done. All we have to do now is take our mag tube cap and screw it on. Oh, got to keep everything together. It's kind of under tension a little bit. And there we go. Look at that. She works. It's all put together, and she's all ready to go back out in the field. Again, I want to thank you guys for watching this review, and I want to thank my daughter for helping me out in filming this, and I will see you guys again in I Was Outdoors.